Welcome to episode 046 of the Bit Beacon broadcast. Kodax, that's me. I'm here. And as we announced last week, Ravenheart will not be joining us this week. He'll be a infrequent contributor going forward, but you'll hear from him in the near future, I'm sure. So I thought about, what should I do? Should I try to change the format up? But I decided I'm just going to kind of do things the way we've been doing them. We'll just make changes on the fly as time goes by. So first, what have I been playing? What have I been buying? I did pick up a copy of Shovel Knight for the PS4. This is a complete in-box copy. It wasn't brand new and sealed or anything. I own a copy of the game on PlayStation Vita, which is sealed, and it's gotten incredibly valuable. And so I just don't really want to open it up. It was cheaper to just spend, $18 on a loose or a complete in-box copy on eBay for PlayStation 4. And the reason why I bought a copy, and I'll get to it shortly, but needless to say, there's an event coming up having to do with Shovel Knight and Yacht Club games. What have I been playing? I've been playing Honkai Star Rail this week. They just had their big 2.4 title update came out, which I do not have the name of the update, but it takes players back to one of the earlier areas of the game, introduces a brand new kind of storyline and threat, and introduces a new area, some new events, a new gameplay path for one of the main characters of the game. Excuse me, I have a little burp. And it's been fun. I largely played through it this past weekend. Kind of got myself totally caught up on all the story stuff. And now I'm going to get back into Monster Hunter Stories on the PlayStation 4, which I talked about a week or two prior as being something new that I was playing. And so I'm going to be jumping back into that over this coming week or so. I have a really busy month coming up. I've got a wedding, I've got an anniversary, I've got a party coming up. So I don't know how much gaming I'm really going to be doing. And that's on top of a new event that's coming up in just next weekend. And this is going to be at Giant Robot in Los Angeles, which is like an art gallery, not too dissimilar from Gallery Nucleus. But it's for Yacht Club's games. And if you don't know who Yacht Club Games is, they make Shovel Knight. They make various Shovel Knight spin-offs. They're working on a new game, Mina the Hollower, and apparently they're also working on a true and proper sequel to Shovel Knight as well. So I'm not really sure what to expect at this event. They did say that they would be signing people's stuff. There's probably going to be some announcements. We might actually be getting kind of our first look at the future of Shovel Knight here, I suspect. I don't know why else they'd be kind of having like a little mini press conference event. And aside from that, another new event has kind of sprung up on my radar. This one at Gallery Nucleus on September 14th. This is a Destiny, the video game made by Bungie, who we'll be talking about a lot later. Basically an art event. It's going to be like a tribute show, but officially sponsored and sanctioned by Bungie and Sony, I guess. And it's going to have more than 20 or so different guest artists contributing a piece to the gallery, and there will be prints and other various things to pick up, and other merchandise apparently. This is just a fresh announcement. They haven't even formally announced it on Twitter or any social media yet. I just happened to be browsing their upcoming events, and saw it listed there. So I got myself a ticket. They have 1 hour of the event where there will be a signing with some of the guest artists. I don't really know how important the signing is really going to be, given that I don't know that anybody from like Bungie is actually going to be there, or any like Bungie concept art or anything like that is going to be there. Speaking of Bungie, how about we just jump right into this first story, which is a big one. And, I should mention there's no Seraphim Weekly update this week. Rick will have that when he's on the show. So anybody specifically looking for the Seraphim Weekly update, unless Rick wants to give me something to like announce on the show when he's not on, I don't think that'll be happening unless Rick is actually on the show. So Bungie has announced on July 31st, Pete Parsons, I should say, announced, the CEO of Bungie, via a post on Bungie's news blog titled "The New Path for Bungie," that Bungie would again be enduring layoffs. You may remember from our podcast last year, we talked about Bungie letting go of around 100 employees last October at their Bellevue headquarters in Washington State. It seems that really wasn't enough for their corporate overlords, who have demanded for more heads to roll. And so heads have rolled. So how many people are being laid off this time? Well, it's a little more complicated than just layoffs. There's, on top of layoffs, there's a couple other factors about where some employees are going to be headed. So Pete says, beginning today, 220 of our roles will be eliminated, representing roughly 17% of our studio's workforce. These actions will affect every level of the company, including most of our executive and senior leader roles. So this is interesting. So while it's not just like new, fresh employees, it's also going to be, some executives and upper management people losing their jobs too. Some of the more expensive people at the company. But Pete Parsons, CEO of Bungie, who's never actually worked on video games beyond being like a marketing soup, or a CEO, he probably won't, see anything wrong with his paychecks or his employment status. That'll probably continue, at least for a little while longer. So these employees are being terminated effective immediately, but Bungie will be offering a generous exit package, including severance, bonus, and health coverage. Exact details of this package are not available. Jason Schreier of Bloomberg is also reporting that people who were at Bungie when Sony purchased them a couple years ago, if their stock has not fully vested that they received in that purchase, then they lose all of it. So, that's a major loss for some of these people. These layoffs come just a short time after Destiny 2's latest expansion, The Final Shape, launched to rave reviews from fans and critics alike, I think back in May. And what's crazy is that they delayed The Final Shape 6-7 months last year to make sure that it would meet expectations. Sorry, maybe not 6 or 7, maybe it was 3 or 4 months. And seemingly it did meet expectations, but there's been some rumblings that even though this has been Destiny's biggest and best expansion in quite a while for Destiny 2, sales are still down year over year for every expansion since the early time of Destiny 2, which is already 6 years ago now at this point, 5 years ago. In addition to the layoffs, this is where things kind of get a little weird. An additional 155 employees will be leaving Bungie. But these 155 employees will be integrated into new roles at Sony Interactive Entertainment, So, like we mentioned before, a couple of years ago, PlayStation bought Bungie as a first party studio. Now, Bungie had this sort of autonomy to themselves, or at least that was the plan initially, but seemingly Pete Parsons is running Bungie into the ground, and he can't seem to stop it. And so, Sony is now gobbling up talent at Bungie. These 155 people will, I guess, be offered roles at various studios across the country, or maybe all SIE studios. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. But Pete says if it wasn't for Sony Interactive Entertainment's intervention, these 155 employees would have been laid off the same day as the other 220 people. In addition to the layoffs, a planned new action game set in a sci-fi universe in development at Bungie will be moved out of the studio and into a brand new studio part of Sony Interactive Entertainment. So basically, they're spinning off this game out of Bungie, and it's going to be a new first-party Sony studio, and 40 additional employees are going to leave Bungie to start this new studio. So 220 people got laid off. 155 people are going to be moved to other roles outside of Bungie at other SIE studios, and 40 more people are going to be spun off out of Bungie into a brand new studio of their own to continue work on this game. So this takes Bungie from about 1,300 employees that they had last year down to just 850 employees today, as confirmed in Pete Parsons' blog. I just want to read a little bit of his statement, mostly the ending here, from his announcement. And so he says, as a result, today we must say goodbye to incredible talent, colleagues, and friends. This will be a challenging time at Bungie, and we'll need to help our team navigate these changes in the weeks and months ahead. This will be a hard week, and we know that our team will need time to process, to ask questions, and to absorb this news. Today and over the next several weeks, we will host team meetings and town halls, team breakout sessions, and private individual sessions to ensure we are keeping our communication open and transparent. Bungie will continue to make great games. We still have over 850 team members building Destiny and Marathon. And we will continue building amazing experiences that exceed our players' expectations. There will be a time to talk about our goals and projects, but today is not that day. Today, our focus is on supporting our people. Pete. So these are some nice words from the guy who spends $2.5 million US on classic cars while Bungie has been in the red and struggling to generate income. That's right, Pete Parsons is a classic car collector. Internet sleuths have found his profile on the Bring a Trailer website, which helps car collectors bid on and buy rare and classic vehicles. Since 2022, Pete has purchased 25 vehicles from the Bring a Trailer website. So, for 2 years, Bungie has been in kind of a dire situation. People have been being let go, there's been layoffs, there's been internal strife, games are getting canceled, and meanwhile, Pete is, dropping massive cash on new cars every couple weeks, effectively. This is what happens when you have too much money. You got nothing better to do than to go, oh, my old Hot Wheels, let me buy those, but real. So Pete's most recent purchases goes back to just June of this year, where he paid $91,500 for a 1961 Chevrolet Corvette 283 4-speed. His biggest purchase comes just a month after last year's Bungie layoffs. Remember, 100 people got laid off last October. And so that next month, he spent $201,000 on a 1971 Porsche 911S Coupe. To put things into perspective, your average game developer at Bungie starts around $100,000. While that might sound like a lot, it's kind of average considering you'd have to live in the Seattle metro area where the cost of living is really, really high. One laid off employee reports that just 3 days before the layoffs, Pete had an extended invite for them to come see his car collection personally. I mean, if that's not cruel and unusual, I don't know what is. Like, what are you doing? I mean, I guess he has to keep up appearances, right? Like, he knows that the layoffs are coming. I mean, maybe he's known for months. Maybe he's put the plan together and he's just waiting on Sony to tell him, execute order 66 or whatever the heck it is. And so I don't know. Maybe he genuinely was inviting that person over, but I gotta be honest. I can't give him the benefit of the doubt. I have no doubt that he knew and just had to, if he said like, oh no, don't come over, he'd like set the alarm, or maybe he didn't remember who was going to be leaving the company. So when all of this happened, another project was also canceled. Not just this new sci-fi project set in a new world. There was a new Destiny game in development. Not Destiny 3, but something Destiny adjacent, being developed by Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy, who are two long-time members of the Destiny team and were kind of responsible for getting the initial Destiny 1 launch out of that rough state and into its second year with the Taken King expansion, which was at the time largely considered to be like phenomenal. It basically saved Destiny. And since then, since that thing happened, that expansion came out, Bungie basically said, okay, you two, you guys need to handle Destiny going forward. And they did, to mixed success here and there. But ultimately, Destiny is in better hands with them than it was without them. So they had apparently, they left Destiny 2 a little while ago, still, having involvement, but not to the extent that they used to. They were working on concepting and prototyping and, dreaming about this new Destiny game. And because that project was canceled, reports are saying, although we don't seemingly have like personal confirmation from either of them, that they have both left the studio as well. Now we don't know if they were part of the layoffs or if they left on their own accord, but needless to say, without them being there, the Destiny franchise is in a lot of trouble. Like, I don't know who even is Bungie anymore. It's the same thing that happened to Blizzard. Like, who is Blizzard anymore? So many of the core important people who helped shape these worlds and create these universes, they're all gone. In Blizzard's case, we did see Chris Metzen, kind of the Warcraft architect, come back to Blizzard last year and announce kind of a grand vision for the Warcraft brand, which is exciting for Blizzard, but they've got other problems at Blizzard too, beyond just the lore and story and where the game is going. But yeah, Bungie, I mean, I don't know, if I'm a Destiny fan, this is like okay, I'm out. Apparently Destiny 2, it will also not be getting any more significant expansions. They will just be small micro updates. Like, they're done pouring hundreds of thousands of hours into these expansions that are just selling less and less every year. I guess at this point, Bungie really needs almost like a Destiny 3, you could say. But it doesn't sound like Destiny 3 is even something that's happening right now at Bungie. Apparently they're going all hands on deck for their marathon game, which is a tactical extraction shooter, competitive, fully PvP, no PvE. So they're going a very live service heavy, co-op versus kind of game, which is very different from Destiny, where the PvP is kind of an afterthought in comparison to this sort of MMO-ish PvE style gameplay. I don't mean to insult anyone who loves Destiny PvP. Those those modes can be a lot of fun, and I remember playing them when I was really into Destiny 1 and briefly into Destiny 2. Bobby the Mad One, I'll never forget you, wherever you are. Yeah, so that's what's going on at Bungie. It's really not good. My guess is that Bungie's days of autonomy are numbered, and it's just a matter of time, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, before Sony will exert full control over Bungie. Right now, Bungie is still controlled by its own CEO, Pete Parsons, while Herman Holst basically has full oversight over every other PlayStation studio. And so I just can't imagine with the performance that Bungie is, having right now, that'll last much longer. Pete is probably on his way out, I would think. I can't imagine Sony's happy with him, but they seem to keep giving him chance after chance. I don't know, maybe there's something in his contract where they can't fire him for so many years. I have no idea. And while it sounds sad to see that Bungie may lose its autonomy to Sony, perhaps it's better than letting Pete Parsons continue running the studio into the ground. Alright, so before we move on to the second and our final story, this is going really fast. I might have to add more stories if I'm going solo in the future. I did want to continue the t-shirt segment, unless I get a note from Ravenheart where he tells me not to do it unless there's two people there, unless he's here. I'm going to do it this week at least. So what I have here, what I'm wearing, or what I'm holding, I should actually say, because I need to be able to look at it. I have a Pokemon Center t-shirt from Pokemon Center Japan. And it is it's a crew neck, short sleeve t-shirt, and it has the pattern of the substitute doll, as seen in the Pokemon video games. Maybe the anime. I don't know if I've ever seen the substitute doll in the anime. But it has that sort of like little kind of tiny dinosaur appearance with like a X on its white belly. And so the whole shirt is sort of like almost like a kind of Game Boy green sort of look to it. And it's sort of like a collage of a whole bunch of the substitute dolls, but mixed in are some other Pokemon like Larvitar, Squirtle wearing the sunglasses that he is known and loved for wearing, and some Plusle minion, and then like a Pikachu wearing a substitute doll outfit. And that is the shirt. I do like this shirt a lot. Unfortunately, I got it way too large. I don't know why I ordered it XL. I should have ordered it just large. Japanese sizes tend to run like a size smaller for like Americans than it says the size is. But yeah, for whatever reason, back when I bought this, probably 2014 or 2015, I think I got this. Yeah, so it's a little big on me at this point in my life, but I still really enjoy the design and the pattern, and I wear it, occasionally for like special Pokemon events. Okay, our final story for the day. This one is like a major bummer. Like, I'm incredibly bummed about this. This story broke on Friday early in the morning. I think I had just gotten to work. So anyways, you may recall earlier this year I resubscribed to Game Informer magazine. They announced that they were going direct to consumer with subscriptions, and so for the first time ever, you could pay for the magazine to come to your door rather than paying to have a GameStop membership, which then sometimes offered the magazine. For the last couple of years, they were only giving it digitally as a bonus, and if you wanted the physical magazine, you had to buy it in store. So for these last couple months, these last 3 or so subscription cycles, the new print magazine, or the new print magazine subscription, has become available. So the first issue was Star Wars Outlaws, then it was Hades, and then very recently the Dragon Age Dawn Guard issue came out. So sadly, it seems that not enough people subscribed. GameStop CEO and billionaire 4 times over, Ryan Cohen, basically decided, I'm not paying for Game Informer anymore. And now it doesn't exist. On August 4th, 2024, 8:46 a.m., Game Informer posted this message on their social media accounts. It's titled, "The Final Level, Farewell from Game Informer. After 33 thrilling years of bringing you the latest news, reviews, and insights from the ever-evolving world of gaming, it is with a heavy heart that we announce the closure of Game Informer. From the early days of pixelated adventures to today's immersive virtual realms, we've been honored to share this incredible journey with you, our loyal readers. While our presses may stop, the passion for gaming that we've cultivated together will continue to live on. Thank you for being part of our epic quest, and may your own gaming adventures never end. Game Informer." Truly, Game Informer was the last of its kind as a multi-platform gaming magazine here in the US. Other competitors like Electronic Gaming Monthly and GamePro died out, a decade ago. And then you had hyper-focused magazines like Nintendo Power, Official PlayStation Magazine, and Official Xbox Magazine, all also ended some time ago. Here in the US, Game Informer was really the last of its kind as a print magazine. Magazines like PC Gamer still exist, which is a US published magazine, and other magazines have kind of really niche magazines with like infrequent printing publications have popped up, like Retro Gaming Magazine or Retro Gamer Magazine, and Nintendo Force, which is basically a spiritual successor to Nintendo Power. They basically have tried really hard to fully emulate the Nintendo Power experience by recreating the old magazine from like the different kinds of segments that they had within the magazine. And that magazine actually started up exactly the month after Nintendo Power ceased. And that magazine is run by Lucas Thomas, who I believe was a former IGN Nintendo editor. And he basically went all in, a decade ago and said, hey, we're going to make a Nintendo magazine that publishes, every other month. So 6 issues a year. And they've been going really strong. They're on something like issue 70 something now, which is really impressive. But they are also, you can't find them in stores. You're not going to go into Barnes & Noble and find Nintendo Force, at least not that I've ever seen. You have to subscribe directly to them or purchase the magazines directly from them. So while those magazines are all great, Game Informer was really something special. The cover stories, that was really the focus of each magazine. The editors and the writers at Game Informer would be given unprecedented access to these studios in exchange for like a cover story, effectively. Cover reveals were veiled in secrecy until the exact moment they were supposed to be revealed. I even read a story from Jeff Keighley who said that he was going to debut like Tony Hawk Underground at like a press conference or something, and Game Informer was able to convince Activision, don't show it at this press conference, let's do a cover story on it. Like, it was more meaningful to have a cover story in Game Informer than it was to have all the press attention on your game at E3, which is just mind-boggling to think about. Custom illustrations would be made for Game Informer covers. Meanwhile, like other gaming magazines, they would just use the press assets that would be given to them by Nintendo, PlayStation, and various developers to use on the cover of their magazines. Game Informer's entire digital archive is also lost. Every story, every review, every article just redirects to a generic web page announcing the closure with the same message that they posted on social media. I suppose the one bright spot is that much, if not all of this, like, written content was in the magazines themselves. So at least that work is preserved in that regard. But I mean, imagine you just got let go, and the modern world that we live in, you want to showcase your work, and now all the links to all your work don't even direct to anything that you can share. So you would have to have your own personal backups or snapshots or PDF, print as PDF kind of downloads to prove of what your work did. Like, if you go to Metacritic, these places that aggregate reviews, they have like a little snippet of each review, but then you go to click on it, and now it's going to redirect to nothing, just basically a broken web link at this point. The staff won't be allowed to finish work on their upcoming issue, nor will they be able to go out with a bang celebrating 33 years of the magazine. Imagine if they had been given just one more issue. Like, they could have really gone all out and celebrated the life of Game Informer. They could have had like an awesome cover. They didn't have a game on the cover. They could have just had the Game Informer logo, like a gold foil, something really crazy. They could have done interviews and retrospectives with previous Game Informer editors and writers. It could have been something truly special. Instead, the writers say they were 70% done with what would have been their next issue, which would have just been a normal issue, and it'll never see the light of day. Which means, unceremoniously, issue 367, with the Dragon Age the Veilguard cover story, which was just delivered to subscribers like 2 weeks ago, will be the final issue of Game Informer. As I mentioned earlier, this year I purchased a direct subscription to Game Informer. Only 3 of the 10 promised issues were delivered, and GameStop will only be issuing prorated refunds if you ask for them. God forbid they just do that automatically and give people their money back. I mean, Ryan Cohen has got to be the worst person in charge of GameStop ever. In fact, right now he's being, I believe, accused or investigated for insider trading for some shenanigans he pulled at Bed Bath & Beyond last year. After I got off work on Friday, after the news had kind of settled in, I decided I was going to go over to GameStop. Like, I needed to get there, because my local GameStop at least has a bunch of back issues of Game Informer from like the last year, I'd say. And I had only gotten the most recent 3 issues, but I know there have been some really cool issues in the last year. So I wanted to take one of each. They had probably 8 or 9 different issues there, but I settled on just 3. So the first issue I picked up was issue 358, and Sonic Superstars is on the cover. And what a glorious cover it is. It's got Sonic holding a Chaos Emerald, Knuckles, Amy Rose, and Tails, all front and center, illustrated in like classic Genesis looking artwork. And so this will be Sonic's final cover on Game Informer. The next issue I picked up was 360, which is Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So this cover, I'll admit, it's a little more generic. It is the Elephant Mario power-up, so it's like Mario's already consumed the power-up and now he's Elephant Mario. But it has some like layered background stuff going on that I think is unique to this Game Informer cover. And this will be Mario's final Game Informer cover. And then finally, the one that I wanted to get more than any of the other ones, because it's just absolutely stunning, is the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth cover. And this is issue 362 of Game Informer. I believe this is the issue right before the new subscription format started for Game Informer. And this cover just shows Sephiroth in like a sea of fire, holding his blade, which name is escaping me right now. and just looking incredibly menacing and scary. And this will also be Final Fantasy's last Game Informer cover. So I just really, I wanted to have these three iconic franchises on the cover of what I would argue is the most celebrated, circulated, and legendary game magazine out there, Game Informer and Transmission.